Hello, bonjour. Jan here. Any regulars obviously know who I am. My subscriber number seems to be going up and down quite a lot, so I think from that it means I'm losing a few and gaining a few. I know I've had YouTube have let me know that I've had obviously quite a few new ones over the last few months, which is fantastic. But I know some of you, and as is always the case, the amount of subscribers I've got do not match up with the amount of people that are actually watching. So if you aren't subscribed, I would really appreciate it. It's the simple thing for you. Just click on subscribe so you know when my videos are coming up. It doesn't cost you any money. It's just a case of you'll be alerted as and when one of my videos comes up. This is all part of YouTube's algorithm, so that there's just certain things they've got set in place that if I've got these amount numbers or whatever, then they will recommend my channel. I keep trying to mix things up and do some different things, and I've obviously sparked some interest recently with my interview ones, which is fantastic because that's obviously something that people are interested in. I mean, obviously the downside is I can't be doing that forevermore, because eventually I will run out of people that I can actually interview. But I just thought, for those of you that are new to the channel and may have found me because of the interviews, I just wanted to really go through what I'm aiming to do with this channel and what I do and explain things really. I initially started the channel because obviously I just thought I'm in a new country, and people are very, I know I was before, but people are very curious about what it's like to live in a different country to where they were born. And it's just lovely to share. Doing the videos does prompt me to maybe go out and about, maybe a little bit more than I would normally, because I don't think, unless some people in retirement can be out and about and doing different things all the time. With me, it's not quite the same because my husband is 10 years younger than me, so he still works. So we don't get quite the same outings, as it were, but I do try and go out with my friend to places. But I don't like to do too much because I feel that my husband is going to miss out. So I try and do things that he wouldn't necessarily be that bothered about, or that he has already seen. So when I do go out and about with him, he likes to do the filming as well, so that's quite handy. Gives my arms a rest and vary the mix. Although the title says fopy'sfrance, it's not necessarily me talking. I'm not a tourist guide, anything like that. It's just, you have to think of a title, don't you, for your channel, and it's quite a hard one, because I say initially what was going to be about just our life here, but as time goes on, unless you've got an extremely busy and varied life, there's going to be a point where you're going to sort of run out of things to show people. I mean, but some people just like the everyday things, just getting in the car, going shopping, or going to just popping into the garden, things like that. On my side of it, that's a little bit samey, and I'm thinking of doing yet another day in the life for people. But I've got a few of those in past videos. I think coming this year, I've been doing this for about 3 years. So there's quite a lot shared on there, and it's difficult for new people to think, oh, I really can't be bothered to go back to the start, and I quite understand that. But I just wanted to change, as I've sort of changed things over the years, just in the hope that it might make things easier to be found. I'm more categorizing things so that if you're looking for something particular, you can find it easier. I'm not sure whether that's helped, but I do know it makes it easier for me to find some things as well. But you'll find on my videos that I put on the heading, I put different things at the start, and now one of them is our life. So that's when I'm just doing everyday things. I might pop out on a little outing. I very rarely do anything with meeting up with friends because not that many people are willing to be filmed, to be perfectly honest. But it'll include maybe preparing my gîte, which we've got, well, our gîte, should I say, that we've got next door. It might be just getting stuff done in the garden, going to the hospital, anything generally under our life. Another heading will be our holidays. I felt I was a little bit awkward putting them on because obviously they're not necessarily, we have holidays in France, but not all of our holidays are in France. But partly to sort of have it all on record for ourselves to watch again if we want to, and know that we can just put it on onto the YouTube and have a look occasionally. I personally like to see other people's holidays, and I thought, well, I'll share it. But if I make it clear that it's our holiday, and if you're really not interested in that, then obviously you just don't watch. We've had a mixture of holidays, like I say, France and in other countries. This past year, we went to Italy with our friend Sharon, but we also, in the same year, had a holiday in France. So yeah, it's worth, just look out for those titles. And the next one is my new one that I've been calling a mini-series, because I'm not quite sure how long it will run for, but it's Living in France. Now, in those, I'm interviewing friends and acquaintances about basically living in France from their perspective. I'm always talking about living in France from our perspective, and I think sometimes it might come across as looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, although it's not, because it's not, like anywhere, once you're settled into a country or whenever you're living, it's not always rosy, is it? But I know, having talked to other people, they've really got a different perspective on it, and because they've got different lives. They might have their family living with them, they might not have the family living with them, they might find it really difficult living here. But all of this is what it's worth watching, and it may answer some of your queries, some things you might be wondering about living abroad, and how it happens, why we've done it, what's involved in living abroad, is it easy for doing certain things. And even it's been an eye-opener even for me. I've talked to quite a few people now, and I'm trying to vary who I chat with. And I've one viewer, I've even found out recently that she was quite a well-known author. I didn't even know that. She was just a lady I knew, a nice lady I knew that lived not too far away. I've got friends that I would love to interview, but they're very, again, as I said, not everybody likes to be filmed, basically. I've got an interview coming up next week, which is with a lady. I'm not sure if her husband's going to be in the video or not, but they were quite good high-up professionals in the UK. One was a doctor, one was a surgeon, I think. I've got that right. Sally, if you're watching this, you correct me. So again, they'll have yet another perspective, and they're talking about their lives here. One thing I didn't mention in my questions, which is coming to mind now, that it's talking about things like, I would say the majority of people I'd speak to are retired here, and so because they're not working, they're likely to have hobbies and things, and I think that's an important thing to discuss as well. So I'm going to try and include that. I've got hobbies. Anybody that watches regularly know I've got hobbies, and I have another channel now called Foppy Upcycle, and I like to, as it says in the name, I upcycle things, mainly clothing, and I love to knit, I love to draw, and I love to paint. Doing YouTube and doing the sewing, I don't get a lot of time to do all of it. So, but yeah, if you want to see anything on my craft side of things, watch Foppy Upcycle. As I say, because I've now not called it Upcycle, it's not going to really include a lot of painting and drawing or whatever. Who knows, maybe I'll include that in the fopy'sfrance one day if I decide I want to do some painting. And the latest part of my channel is a podcast. Now, I know you can get visual podcasts, which I can never really understand, because to me that's just a video, surely. But I suppose it's just seeing people chatting. But the reason I've done it the way I've done it is because regular viewers will know that I spend a lot of time doing things with my friend who lives in the same village. We've known each other for a long time. She's become a little bit self-conscious about being on camera, so I thought to myself, what can we do about that? Because people enjoy seeing us together and chatting and everything, and we do have a laugh, and we're a bit crazy on occasions. But we get on very well, and there's always a bit of banter backwards and forwards. So I decided to start the podcast channel. It's a weird one being on YouTube, but if you look, you can look for there's under the headings, you can look under podcasts, and you'll find my list. I'm hoping to go onto a podcast platform. A lot of them will charge a lot of money. I don't have that sort of money, so I'm doing it on YouTube because it doesn't cost me anything. But I've found one that may not cost me a lot of money, and I'm hoping to be putting them on there as well. Some people have the difficulty of listening to the podcast on YouTube because once you're on it, you can't really come out of it and do other things. So, and I know this from Sharon, because she says when she listens to it, she can't just, like some people like to be listening to the radio, don't they, when they're doing things, and on the phone. That is the thing. If you want to come out of the podcast on YouTube, you can't necessarily do something else on your phone. It's difficult. So I'm trying to, it's just alerted me really to think there might be the same problem for other people. So I'm thinking of doing this other platform, because I know I listen to other podcast platforms, and I can just put it in my back pocket while I'm walking around the house, and I'll be listening to it at the same time. And I could do that with the YouTube one, but it just gives, it's another challenge, and doing it on a podcast platform, it's just a little bit easier. So I'm thinking at Acast at the moment. I don't know if any of you are on that. I could not believe how many podcast platforms there are out there. So once I've done that, I'll let you know, and then you have a choice. I mean, these podcast platforms are free to join, so you can generally, and obviously you're limited up to a certain amount of things you can do on that channel. But I mean, I've joined Spotify, and that's absolutely free. I can listen to as many podcast people and that as I want to. I can't go on there because they limit how many you can get for free, and then you have to start paying. So I didn't want to start on there, then not be able to go any further. But as far as we can make out, Acast is okay. So yeah, so I just basically look out for that. I will put it on the screen when it comes up. Sorry, I got an itchy nose, hay fever. But yeah, I've got some notes today because I just wanted to run over some things with you. Before I start to do anything else, I wanted to give a shout out to Renee. She's one of my avid viewers, and she's in Canada. Watches all the time, comments all the time. She's amazing. Recently we talked about TV programmes and things, and she recommended one called All the Light I Cannot See. Or it might even be All the Light You Cannot See. Anyway, it's on my list, been on my list to watch, and I just wanted to let you know, Renee, I've watched it now and I absolutely loved it. Our friends Mark and Adam watched it as well and said it was very tearful, which it was. So just to let you know, thanks for that recommendation. I've watched that, and as I said, I've got new subscribers these, I've got new subscribers that have now moved here and don't live too far from me, and I mentioned him in at the beginning of one of the interview videos, and the name's Elaine and Jay. So it's nice to know this is why I love people commenting and contacting me, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube comments, because it's just, I know you're there. I mean, I know you've watched, and it's really good, really lovely for me. And another one is a lady called Becky Bryant. Now, Becky, I think, has been with the channel, but subscribed to the channel for a while, but some people go away and they come back and everything, and she'd come back and she's now catching up. And she's a lady I met, myself and Sharon met at ChairFit. And it's been lovely because she's been watching and commenting on the videos as well. So thanks for that, Becky. I can't name absolutely everyone, and I've been surprised recently that I've had some French people subscribe. Whether they've stayed when they realised that we're English, I don't know. Maybe they're French people who can actually speak English. I don't know. I mean, I know my neighbours, Leon and Natalie, watch. I hope they get to use the subtitles, because you can actually put it in the language that you require. They can be quite funny. It's on that little button that says CC. I think it's closed captions or something it stands for. And sometimes you can use that if you're having trouble being able to hear the video properly. You can click on that and you'll get the subtitles to tell you what's being said. And I've got one of my friends is deaf, and he uses those for that, and they can be quite funny. I've watched with subtitles, and if the people that are speaking, and this has been me as well, don't necessarily speak very clearly, it's quite humorous what it can come up with. So it's the same with if I'm having problems with volume on one of my videos, I always say to people, to use the subtitles as well, and then you'll be sure what you're hearing. Yeah, so we've got our life, our holiday, and living in France as 3 channels, and then the podcasts. And you'll know the podcast because there's Sharon's face and mine pouting. There's a picture we'd taken on our holiday in Italy last year. I've so far made 20 podcasts, and Sharon and I absolutely love recording them. We have a few hiccups here and there with the sounds. We've had to try different types of sound, and whatever makes it easier and quicker for me basically to edit. They don't need a lot of editing because it's all general chit chat, and you're going to, it's not going to be like regimented or anything. Why wouldn't we'll have to, when we get together, that's obviously we're chatting all the time, and we don't need an excuse to chat, but we're trying to cover lots of different subjects. The numbers aren't great on them at the minute, and I don't know why. If you can think of any reason why people aren't tuning into that, I don't know. And it is still early days. It's only been, I think, about 5 months or so that we've been doing them. So I hope the numbers will go up, and it'll be interesting to see is when I do put it on the platform, the podcast platform, whether things are any different then. Because that's the thing with podcasts, it's like YouTube, you get so many different age groups watching and so many different age groups filming, and none of us really know. I do know, looking at the analytics, that most of my viewers are in the same age group generally as me. More generally women as well. But I'm glad to see that there are a few men there, and there are some slightly lower age groups as well. But I just thought, just in case you hadn't yet clicked on the podcasts, really, just to sort of let you know the subjects we've been covering. And I'm going to give you the numbers of the podcast, because I've started to put numbers at the start of the title on the thumbnail, just so that if ever I refer to one, I can tell you go to this number. They're not in any particular order at the moment, because I was trying to write them down as I remember. One of the first ones, and is toys that we remember as a child. I mean, every one of these, we go off on a tangent. We open up by talking about our week and what we've been up to. Sharon generally will end up sharing a dream or two she's had, because she's very good at remembering her dreams, and she has the most bizarre dreams, I can tell you. Which I just sit there open mouth sometimes. You can't see that, obviously, because you don't see us on that podcast. But yeah, so let's just give you the general pattern. It's a chat about our week, the dreams, and anything else that might come up, and then we get on to our subjects. As I say, we've done toys that we remember. That's podcast number 2. We've done being stranded on an island and what we felt we would need to keep us going, being stranded on an island, which is another... They're all hilarious, to be honest. And that's number 3. We've got one that we called our guilty pleasures, and that's just covering things that we like, things that we feel guilty about finding pleasure in. That's a bit of an eye-opener in places as well. That's number 3. Number 4. And then with another one, we covered our favourite films. Now, things like that, our favourite films and all that, we have to use prompts. We have to go onto Google or anywhere like that to have a quick browse through films to remind us, and yes, I love that one, because off the top of our heads it's really hard to think of, probably partly age maybe, but it's hard to always remember. There's too many, isn't there, to remember all of them. Yes, and then we did TV shows we remember as children. That we definitely had to sort of have some prompts and some reminders, but once we got talking we remembered lots of others, and since then we've had some viewers mention some that we haven't mentioned, and oh yeah, why didn't we think of that? It's just too many to remember. But it was quite funny going through these, because obviously we're talking about when this is probably 50 years ago at least, that were programmes that were on TV, not necessarily just children's programmes, just general programmes that stick in our mind, things we remember watching with our parents, or just when we were younger. And that's number 17 and 19 for those, because we did 2 parts. So that's another problem, because we like to chat, as me now. The only frustration with this is I wish you were sat here in front of me because it's much better, isn't it, to chat in person. Another one we covered was living as a couple or living alone, because obviously I live with my husband and Sharon lives alone. So it was quite a nice chat, because we could both come up with the pros and the cons of both. That was an interesting one. That was number 14. We covered another one, and I can't find what it came under, but Sharon and I are both list people, but Sharon keeps what seems like hundreds of lists on her phone. And whenever because again, that's down to a memory thing. If ever a subject comes up, she'll very often say, hang on, and then she'll get the phone out, look for the list, and she can tell me. Whereas I don't have quite as many lists as that. So we had one where we covered her lists on her phone, and that was just amazing. Another one we did was what's in your bag. But we've looked, because women are like, all you women that are watching, you know what rubbish we keep in our handbags. And one day I think I happened to see something in Sharon's bag and thought, what on earth? And so we just thought, oh, let's do this. And so we basically revealed what we both got in our handbags, which was another eye-opener. And that's number 7. Another one someone said about doing our bucket lists, so we did that. They're obviously not set in stone, they will change and they will be added to, but at the time it was quite interesting hearing each other's lists about things that we'd like to do if ever we got the money, the time or anything, sometimes the courage. And that was number 8. And then because we're both into upcycling and recycling and everything like that, we really feel fairly passionate about. We did one and we call it "Are We Green Enough?" So we both discussed what we do and as the general public whether we do enough for that, and that was number 10. Excuse me. And Sharon and I are very much into words and sentences and phrases and always curious of their origins. We both watched, and she's got a podcast she watches with Susie Dent and Giles Brandreth. They're both British. Some of you may know them, some may not. They do a podcast about words because Susie Dent, she's the lady that sat with the dictionary on one of the quiz shows, which I think it was Countdown or something like that. And very, very knowledgeable, worked for the Oxford Dictionary. Anyway, so Sharon's been watching or listening to their podcasts about words. So every day she's coming at me with another word and its origin, and it's so interesting. And so we do cover some of that as well during every one if we come up with another bizarre word. And we've got another friend who often posts words like, words from hundreds of years ago, and they can be absolutely bizarre, but the words that used to be used. And so we love it all, love all that. Another one, we watched someone called Rob Words, which Renee, the viewer I mentioned earlier, she put me onto that, and that's really interesting. Histories of words in different languages and things. And under that umbrella, we thought of Cockney rhyming slang. So we've done an episode about Cockney rhyming slang, and that was quite funny, finding, like, listening to that and where that's come from and how Cockney rhyming slang even come about. That was another one, and that's number 16. Another one that proved to be quite popular was the menopause. We covered that because obviously, again, with the age group that I said, the majority of the people that seem to be watching and listening are around that age. Although the menopause does cover a much bigger bigger range of ages. Most of it is around sort of our age. So we covered that, and we covered the symptoms, all the symptoms that we've found that some people, possibly not all people or ladies, that have suffered. And it was surprising how many people come back and they've had the symptoms and did not know that they were part of menopause. So it's another one to listen to. That's number 15. Going back to the languages and the words and things, we wanted to go. It started to amaze us, but we learnt. Funny enough, I personally didn't give it that much of a thought. But having had French lessons, our French teacher on some lessons covered French idioms, and they're not an easy thing to learn because it's not an everyday use for us. For the French they would be. So I found a whole list of French idioms, and obviously you've got the hilarity of Sharon and I trying to speak them in French, but then obviously we translate them and then discuss where they may have come from. And so then after that was number 12, and then after that, a few weeks later, we decided to cover English idioms, because obviously we know a lot of those, and we covered a lot, and I think we did two parts to that, and we've found loads since as well, but we won't do it again because it's just too much. But the English idioms is number 18. We've talked about our travels in another one early on, about our holidays where we've both been, and that was quite interesting. That was number 6. After Christmas this year, we had a quick catch up about what we'd done over Christmas, and obviously that go off on a tangent discussing what we do with our families at Christmas, things like that, and that's number 9. Then other times we've had. I did do a video on. There's a box of what they call icebreaker questions, and they're really quite funny because they are literally what they like. You would if you didn't know someone very well, you're going to ask these questions on these cards. But that video didn't turn out very well. The sound didn't do very well and it was quite dark, so I didn't bother putting that up in the end. But we used these questions in a podcast, and they just so we both pick up a card, ask each other a question. They can be really bizarre or just really normal, but it was interesting to see each other's responses, and we did that in 2 parts as well, and that's podcast 11 and 13. Our most recent one has been talking about, I found something on Facebook where someone mentioned being over 60 to death, is what it said at the start of it. Doesn't sound very nice, I know, but again, the age group that are watching and listening, it may be curious because it mentions things that we don't always necessarily talk about, and then there's other things that you're going to generally talk about anyway. Again, but this is 2 friends talking about it and 2 different opinions on what we feel about certain things in our age group and thinking about the future, things like that. And that we've done that in 2 parts because, again, there's so much to cover. And that is the most recent ones, number 19 and number 20. 19 will be going up, I think it's in about 3 weeks or so, and then the next one will be 2 weeks after that. Because what I've tried to do, because I was doing a Tuesday and a Thursday, and it's a lot of time taken up out of the week, to be perfectly honest, editing these videos. So say, not so much the podcast, because it's only volume and things like that to be edited. So I decided in the end, just to make life a little bit easier for me, I'm putting up one of my normal fopy'sfrance videos, and it might be one of the mini-series of the interviews, or it might be one of my everyday videos, and then in between I'm staggering podcasts in between, and they come out on a Tuesday. So it varies it for you, but I just felt you might be getting a little bit confused why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, but I just wanted that's why I'm here today, to have a chat with you and to explain the reasons behind I'm doing what I'm doing. And also trying to get more of you to listen to the podcast. As I say, yes, it's on fopy'sfrance, but it's not necessarily about France. We do talk about our life here in France, but we wanted to cover other subjects as well that we think you may be interested in. If there's a subject you'd like us to cover and you're curious what we think about it, put it in the comments or even email it to me. If you look in the description, which comes under more in the description now, underneath it, if you got the thumbnail title, you'll see it says more in little letters. If you click on that, then it'll give you more information about possibly the video you're watching, and it will also give you other links for us, and also my email address and our address should you want to be sending me a letter or anything. So look out for that. And meanwhile, I think, let me just check my list. I don't want to go and say I think I've forgotten anything. That's one thing I did want to talk about actually. Some people might be put off at the length of the videos and the podcasts. I'm not the sort of person that, personally, I don't like to watch snippets of things in videos and everything. So, and I find it doesn't cover enough. So I find that difficult to actually do that myself, because the reason I'm doing the videos is to share with you. So if I start cutting that, I'm going to probably cut out a bit that you'd be interested in. So I'd try not to cut it too much. So my videos can vary anything from 20 minutes to an hour plus. But obviously you've got that option of pausing or stopping and coming back to it later on, fast forwarding. All those options are there, but please don't look at the length of it and just think, oh, I can't be bothered. Listen to it a bit of a time. Listen or watch it a bit at a time. it takes a long time to do, and as I say, subscribe if you have a mind to, and I really encourage you to if you can, because it is important that YouTube see the subscribers I've got, and I've been very lucky that my numbers have increased recently thanks to the living in France videos. And for some reason, it's the thumbnail and its title is very important. I find the thumbnail quite difficult because I do forget to take a particular photo for the thumbnail, so I tend to sort of just use maybe part of the video. But for some reason, obviously I understand if there's something in the title that you're searching for and it's going to come up, but it will also come up. We've got little tags that we add in the whole video as well, that it may prompt you to watch. But yeah, for some reason, if it's a chateau or if it's a renovation, anything like that, or if there's been a disaster, anything like that, anything that people are curious about. It's a bit of a cruel world when people are looking videos where something's happened to someone, which could be really sad, but that's life, I suppose. As I say, I've told our regular viewers will know, I've said before, we've had ones where Duncan's had an accident or I've had a problem, and that seems to get the most views. Go figure. So other than that, I think I'm going to leave it there. Hope I haven't waffled on too much, but I haven't had a chat with you for a while, and I wanted to just, let new viewers and subscribers know what I'm doing. So I will hopefully see you very soon. Keep yourselves well, and yeah, that's about it. Au revoir.